Welcome to Clothesline Theatre. We have been waiting for you to tune in to hear tales of Prince Edward Island, a place of history and some mystery. You may be surprised by the true stories that have been unearthed and brought to life by our radio dramas. We invite you to settle into a comfortable chair and let the voices and sounds trigger your imagination as you hear the following dramatic story.
When the Great War broke out in 1914, the role that women would play for the British Allies would be considered subordinate to that of men. Women were seen as the healers who cared for the male warriors. Nurses were to be caring, feminine women who could assist in the Army's goal of returning sick and wounded men to the battlefield. It was a job they did not hesitate to assume with skill and confidence. Prince Edward Island nurses were quick to apply to the Canadian Army Medical Corps in a desire to do their part for King and country. Winifred Grace MacLeod of Charlottetown was working as a nurse in Vancouver and was an active member of the militia when the war broke out. She went overseas with a British Columbia unit in 1915. From September to December of that year, she experienced the very best of wartime nursing conditions at the Duchess of Connaught Red Cross Hospital on Lord Astor's estate in England. The surroundings were luxurious, but that quickly changed.
Good afternoon, Nursing Sister MacLeod. I must tell you that word has been received that you will be transferred to somewhere in the Middle East come December 4th. While the location is not yet known, I believe that you should prepare yourself that conditions will be much harsher than what you have experienced to date.
Thank you for the information, Matron. I will be prepared.
The ill-fated Gallipoli campaign had opened up in the Mediterranean. Russia had asked the British to arrange either a naval or military campaign against the Turks to induce them to withdraw some of their forces that were opposing the Russians in Caucasus. The British sent 500,000 soldiers, half of whom would become casualties. Though no Canadian soldiers were sent, Canadian medical units were deployed at the request of the British. Nursing Sister MacLeod was on her way to Salonika, Greece, as the first islander to be part of the Mediterranean Expeditionary Force. She boarded her ship in Liverpool, England.
This is our traveling accommodation?
Yes, 53 of us in this one hot, smelly ward.
With little narrow green cots lined up in perfect rows. It certainly is a change from Lord Astor's posh 375-acre estate.
We'll just have to make the best of it. I grew up with 8 siblings.
By the way, here's your life jacket. Check the list to see what lifeboat station you are assigned to, and remember, the portholes are blocked out and no smoking is allowed on deck at night.
The seas were rough for the first few days, and all 53 nurses were confined to their cots. 12 days later, they docked in Malta's large harbor and enjoyed several days of sightseeing and shopping before heading out to sea once again. As before, the nurses took to their beds. They were mysteriously taken to Cairo for an unexpected 6-week vacation.
This isn't so bad. I never imagined when I was growing up on Prince Edward Island that I would be seeing the pyramids or sailing the Nile.
I thought reading the Bible would be the closest I would ever get to them.
Riding the camels and the donkeys has been a marvelous experience.
It's too bad the Sphinx was broken when we got our pictures taken in front of it.
I could have done without the fleas we got in that one old mosque, but the rest of them were fascinating.
The bazaars are wonderful. I'm starting to like bartering. It must be in my Scottish heritage. I bought this lovely little painting of papyrus.
The vacation came to an end when orders came through to proceed to Salonika, described by Army Surgeon N.J.C. Rutherford as lovely to look at from the sea, and not at all nice to know when you land. The final night aboard ship proved eventful. The ship was bombed amidships, but the nurses' quarters were not damaged. However, their experience on shore only got worse.
There is simply no vegetation. There's nothing but rocky soil. How do people live here?
Doesn't sound anything like the Prince Edward Island you are always describing to us.
Mount Olympus, towering in the distance, is pretty.
The place is horrid. It's dirty, desolate, and windswept, and goodness knows how long we'll be trapped here.
Welcome to your new home, nurses. Let me show you to your tent. There will be 4 of you here, but at least the tents are big enough that you each get a dresser, a washstand, and a stool. And when there is room for each of your trunks, we'll be bringing them to you later.
I've never seen 2 crates made into a dresser before.
What's on the floor?
Those are rush mats. They keep the mud down, but they are forever wet. You were lucky to have a small stove for heat.
What is the weather like here? Obviously, not much can grow.
The winter consists of cold, driving rain. It causes chilblains in our hands and feet. Summer's hot and humid, and pretty much unbearable.
Where do we get water for washing? I'm already covered in dust.
That's a little more bad news. The water has to come from the river some distance away. We only have 1 borrowed cart, so the water supply is precarious. You are rationed to 1 quart a day.
1 quart a day? You mean we have to decide between drinking and washing?
Something like that.
The private failed to mention that the water was also reddish-brown and thickly muddy. Water used for food, tea, and coffee was so chlorinated that Prince Edward Islander Sir Andrew MacPhail described everything as tasting like nauseous medicine. Sanitation was appalling, and then there was the never-ending vermin and fleas.
Attention, all medical staff. A convoy of wounded is coming in. Everyone is to report to his or her post.
The soldiers will be covered with lice and fleas when they arrive. The usual practice is to strip and bathe them, but with no water, that is impossible. Strip them and bag the clothing.
I don't see the autoclave.
That's because there is not one available to us.
How are we supposed to sterilize the equipment and the dressings?
Disinfectants are the order of the day for surgical procedures. Swab surgical areas with iodine and use Ensol for wet dressings. Fortunately, the Red Cross supplies us with sterile dressings. Waste nothing, as we are always short of supplies. You will have to sterilize the equipment over methylated burners.
This is unbelievable. They expect us to care for wounded men under these conditions?
This lad needs to be seen first. It's bad.
Place him on the cot here.
Help me strip him, Nurse MacLeod. He's too heavy to do alone.
He is badly hurt. It might be best just to cut the pants off. I'll put the clothing in the bag while you start swabbing him.
My God! Look, Nurse MacLeod. The bag is moving.
It's the fleas. Matron, have you seen that happen before?
Yes, I have. Make sure you put gasoline in your hair later to kill any that may have gotten on you. It works for the lice as well.
Just wait until you change your first dressing and find maggots in it.
As you nurses can see and hear, the hospital tents are subjected to frequent German air raids.
But this is a hospital.
Oh, it doesn't matter to those boys.
Dugouts and shelter trenches were made for the nurses, which they did not appreciate being rushed into if it meant leaving patients behind. During raids, patients too sick to leave the hospital were helped under their beds, while those who were well enough to be up were told to scatter over the scenery. As if poor living conditions, shortage of good water and food, heavy non-stop workload, and air raids were not enough to contend with, the medical personnel were also vulnerable to disease.
Matron, I believe you can add me to the list of patients and staff with dysentery.
That is no surprise. It is running rampant in the camp.
The abdominal cramps are severe, but I'll continue my shift as best I can.
Diarrhea in the middle of a surgery is difficult to deal with. But then what have we not contended with in this hellhole of Salonika?
Dysentery patients were extremely debilitated. Many died due to the lack of water to rehydrate them. One nurse described them as dead men walking with parchment yellow, dried skin drawn over the bones of their faces and burning eyes set in black holes. Another rampant disease was malaria, spread by mosquitoes. However, the nurses never stopped and stoically bore their own pain and discomfort for the sake of their patients.
Goodness, Sister MacLeod, is that you?
Sister Rena McLean? My heavens, it is good to see another islander. When did you arrive in Salonika?
Just yesterday. I'm back from a furlough to the island. But what has happened to you?
I've worked 6 months with chronic dysentery. It is taking a toll.
You are so thin.
I've lost 30 pounds. I have evening fever and I have chest pains all the time, but the soldiers are far worse than I.
Not if you don't get cared for soon. You will be joining the 2 Canadian nurses that have died and been buried here. You need a prolonged rest and a change.
Finally, after 1 year of service in Salonika, the medical officer admitted Nursing Sister MacLeod to the hospital in Malta. She was invalided to the nurses' convalescent home in Margate, England, for a long rest. Shortly after she arrived, the house was bombed. Little did Sister MacLeod know the worst of her war experience was yet to come. After serving on a hospital ship, she was sent to Etaples on May 12, 1918. On the peaceful Sunday night of May 19th, all hell broke loose.
Nurse MacLeod, how are the men faring this evening?
Finally, matron, all 1,200 patients are wrapped in slumber for the night.
The men's quarters have been hit directly and are on fire.
The fire will make the residents as easy targets. Nurses, everything must go on as usual. Continue the work in the wards. The operating room must keep working.
We need to soothe and calm the patients. Get those we can under their beds.
The femur ward patients hooked up to the pulleys and weights will have to stay put.
Will this terrible war ever be over?
At the end of the night of terror and destruction, there were 90 casualties, but a beautiful morning broke. There was still more war to be faced by Nursing Sister Winifred Grace MacLeod before she sailed home to Canada in March of 1919. Nursing Sister Winifred MacLeod, Conditions at Salonika. Presented by Wyatt Heritage Properties Inc. Narrator, Stuart Smith. Matron 1, Catherine Dixon. Nurse MacLeod, Michelle Askew. Nurse 1, Jennifer Beck. Nurse 2, Charmaine Comeau. Nurse 3, Susan Rogers. Private, Spencer Phillips. Officer, Albert Goody. Matron 2, Janice Trousdale. Soldier, Mitchell Fraser. Matron 3, Janet Rose Hurst. Nurse McLean, Patty Arsenault. Introduction, Lowell Eustis. Musician, Christine Anderson Gallant. Foleys, Alexandra Gallant, Krista Bryson, Nathan Wiley. Recording engineer, Peter Gallant. Scripts, written by Marlene Campbell. Based on research by Catherine Dewar for her book titled Those Splendid Girls, Prince Edward Island Nurses in the Great War. Any errors in historical accuracy in the composition of the script are the responsibility of Wyatt Heritage Properties. This project has been supported by the Building Communities through Arts and Heritage Program of the Department of Canadian Heritage.